Once upon a time lived a very successful Jewish businessman. With his wealth, he was generally supporting many community needs and institutions in the area. But eventually, one day, his business suffered a great collapse and he lost everything he had. As a devout Chassid, follower of the Alter Rebbe, he traveled to his teacher to pour out his heart and ask for a blessing to restore his livelihood. When he entered the Rebbe's room, he began describing all that had happened, how he could no longer fulfill his obligations to the community. He listed all the causes that were dependent on his support, and there were many of them. Tears filled his eyes when he explained that he had daughters to marry off, and now he couldn't even afford the most modest wedding. The Alter Rebbe listened to him patiently and then asked only one question. He said, "You are telling me everything you need, but what about all the things that you are needed for?" The story says that the businessman fainted upon hearing this. You will ask, what was wrong with what the businessman said? He wasn't asking to become wealthy for selfish reasons. On the contrary, his entire request was for the sake of helping others, supporting the community and good causes. Isn't that exactly what he was needed for? But that's the point. It wasn't he who was needed for all that. It was his money. We often become so wrapped up in what we do that we start to think that this is who we are, especially when we are good at it. And even more so when what we do is a good deed, it benefits others, when it's a mitzvah. A philanthropist who supports the community certainly deserves respect. Please God, may all of us do that. But no matter how great our deeds are, they remain what we do, not who we are. Our actions can be replaced by someone else. Who we are cannot. The world tends to judge us by our productivity. And with enough time, we begin to view ourselves that way too. But do you know who always loves us? Not because of what we do, but because of who we are? Our parents. A mother will always love her child no matter what he does. To our parents, we are needed for who we are, not for what we do. This is why it is important to remember that we have a Father in heaven who loves us simply because it is us, regardless of our performance. When we try to see ourselves through His eyes, we discover a completely different picture of who we are. And we naturally feel drawn to Him. The story concludes that this businessman took the Alter Rebbe's message to heart. He focused not on what his money could accomplish, but on what he is. He started strengthening his connection with his Father in heaven. Then, only afterwards, the Alter Rebbe gave him a blessing, and the businessman was able to rebuild his business and regain his wealth. And although he continued to give tzedakah, charity, as generously as before, perhaps even more, he never again forgot that God needs him for who he is, not just for his money.